and welcome to The Painful Truth. In our docuseries, you will hear stories of PPCM survivors talking about a common disease. PPCM stands for peripartum cardiomyopathy, which is a preventable pregnancy-induced heart failure. PPCM, it's not rare, it's just rarely diagnosed. Early diagnosis saves lives. Hi, and thank you all for watching another series of The Painful Truth. Today we have in Santa Monica, California, Ericka, that is going to talk about her experience with peripartum cardiomyopathy, PPCM. Ericka, thank you so much for your time today and
Thank you for having me.
educating the viewers as well as myself on what happened. So, why don't you first tell me, when were you first feeling like during your pregnancy that this just does not feel right?
It was during my second pregnancy that I was diagnosed. It was in 2019. Around the 6th month, I started noticing symptoms that I felt like weren't right. I had already had a pregnancy, so I was, somewhat aware of, typical pregnancy stuff. And I didn't feel like what I was experiencing was typical pregnancy stuff.
So, both. So, the first time you were pregnant, you didn't have the type of symptoms that you have with your second, which is what they say that all pregnancies are different due to the growth of the placenta, which is why the blood test, the PIGF, which is the placental growth factor, is so important and why it should be mandatory in obstetrician, the field of birthing.
Right.
So, your placenta was growing, and as it was, getting the symptoms of PPCM, what was those symptoms that were happening?
Right off the bat, what I noticed was the swelling. I couldn't even recognize myself anymore. My face, my nose, my hands, my feet, my ankles, everything was just ridiculous. It was ridiculous.
Yes, that's, yes. Can you say, like, for me, I've been 105 pounds my whole life. The time when I finally, 12 months later, had my times of death called cardiac death, I was over, I think it was 213 pounds, over 50 pounds of fluid.
Yeah.
Is that what you were like as well?
I'm not sure. I didn't really track my weight during the pregnancy, but I know after the diagnosis, after the diuretics were given, I lost 51 pounds of fluid in a week.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So
in 1 week.
so you had the same approximate fluid retention.
Right.
And were you diagnosed during your pregnancy, or at what point were you diagnosed peripartum cardiomyopathy?
I was diagnosed 6 days after she was born. We had an emergency C-section. She had already been delivered. I was home. We were fine. And then she was born November 20th. So on the 25th, I was seen in ER because I tried to lay flat and I couldn't. I couldn't sleep at all. And me and my mom were frantic. We were up. I tried, my dad has a CPAP machine. So we tried to use the CPAP for me to fall asleep. It couldn't happen. I tried an inhaler. We tried like albuterol, like a breathing treatment. Nothing worked. And then I finally just fell asleep sitting up, with my mom watching me the whole night, and it was just terrible. So the next morning, I was seen in ER, and they did x-rays. They didn't do a BNP test. They didn't do any of that.
They didn't do the NT-proBNP
No,
test?
they didn't do anything like that. They did an x-ray to check for blood clots. And
Did they check your heart?
no.
So they did a chest x-ray, but they didn't even know that your heart was enlarged and
Right.
weakened at that point?
Right. They
Wow.
told me that I had a blood clot in my lung. That's what it looked like.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So they sent me home at that point.
Okay, so wait a minute. You possibly had a blood clot in your lung. You're
Right.
swollen. You just gave birth.
Mhm.
You're about 50 pounds of fluid of fluid gain weight. That's
Mhm.
different. Fluid weight is different than, you know,
Right.
than nutrition weight.
Mhm.
So, and this is 6 days after you gave birth, and the connection of practice and policy in medicine was not applied with having the common sense that, wow, she could be having childbirth fever, what they called in the 1400s, and in 2022 it's peripartum cardiomyopathy, PPCM.
Nothing.
So, and this was at the ER.
Yes.
And what hospital was that?
This was Kaiser Riverside.
In
Kaiser
Upland.
Riverside. In Riverside.
Oh, okay, Riverside. Okay. So the ER sent you home, and then what happened?
The ER sent me home and I had the same symptoms, but I know that the next day I had my postpartum visit just to check my C-section incision. So I didn't want to run back to the ER just because I already know that I was probably going to get sent back home, that kind of thing.
Right.
So I just toughed it out another night, and the next day I went to my appointment and I was seen by an RN. I'll never forget. Her name was Mercy.
Okay.
And
As you're praying for mercy for anyone to listen to you.
exactly. And I had to be wheeled into the appointment because I would walk and my feet were so swollen that I could feel them jiggling as I walked.
Yeah, I felt that.
Yeah.
I did.
It's
felt
disgusting.
Yeah. No, I didn't know what was wrong with me. I was like, is this, is this normal? And they said
Right.
yes, but
It was disgusting.
it
But
was.
I had to be
couldn't run-
wheeled
I
into
always
it.
said to my husband, I said, I can't run away from myself any further, even if I tried. And I just wanted to just get out of my body and
Yep.
run because I didn't recognize myself. And
Exactly.
sometimes I still don't recognize myself yet. I'm still
I
not there.
haven't made it to that point
Yeah.
at all. But
Well, you just had a baby.
yeah, and
how
it's just been
recently?
like back to back.
This
My
was-
baby is 6 months.
6 months old.
But she was born 3 months early because of this situation. And so they say her adjusted age is 3 months.
Okay, and was all her organs developed? Her lungs, everything?
She was great.
She's perfect.
She's
wonderful.
perfect. Yeah.
And so you guys sent home.
Yes, so the next day I went and I was seen by Mercy.
Mercy.
She checked my blood pressure and it was through the roof. So she said, okay, we'll give it 5 more minutes and then we'll check it again. And she said, but tell me, a little bit how your delivery went, how was your pregnancy? And I just spilled the beans.
Right.
I couldn't hold it in
Hold it
anymore
back.
because I was afraid at that point.
Yeah, you're fighting for your life, and you just gave
Yeah.
life.
So she checked it again and she kept checking and it wouldn't go down. So she said, hold on, I'm going to go get the doctor. The doctor never came in, but he immediately prescribed me high blood pressure medication.
Okay.
And I was like, I've never had high blood pressure, so I don't know what's happening. But she said, yeah, so that'll be available for you at the pharmacy. And she said, but I'm off in about 10 minutes and I'm going to take you down to the ER myself. And that doctor also ordered stat blood work. The blood work that he ordered included, checking my heart function and checking the BNP level and all of those things. So she clocked out. She wheeled me down to the lab first. Then she wheeled me down to emergency. And from there, I was admitted and that's when they, figured everything out.
She saved your life.
Mercy saved my life.
Mercy saved your life.
Yep. Yep.
Wow, that's a blessing and a miracle because you were actually saved when your life was already at a threat.
Right.
And that is why I call this the painful truth of the U.S. epidemic preventable maternal deaths. Because in America, we do not have early diagnosis in obstetrician, gynecology, OB, birth workers, birth keepers, and it's really come to the point where it's unacceptable. Actually, I don't know where my phone is. Hey, sweetie, do you have my phone real quick? I'm so sorry. No, there was something that I wanted to read. Shoot, where'd it go? We're gonna have to cut this for a second. Okay, so talking about how nurses, midwives, ERs, the medical community, and why the United States of America has one of the highest death rates, globally.
Yeah.
And this is kind of the reason why, because the lack of education, as well as training and the awareness, as well as for some reason, informative information within birth has become fearful. And there was a beautiful post today on Facebook, and I actually even told her that I was going to mention this. She was a midwife doula, and there was a beautiful post. Second. So sorry. We're back. So as we were talking about how United States of America has the highest maternal mortality death rate, which is why I have named this docuseries "The Painful Truth of the U.S. Epidemic Preventable Maternal Deaths," and this is one example why this still exists. There was a beautiful post on Facebook about what a new mama should do after she gives birth, and they were saying, give yourself time to take a bath, give yourself an hour, time manage you so you could be the best you for your family, and that time that you give yourself is so important. So I also added that is so unbelievably true, and it's good that we remind new mommies that don't forget about your moments so you can, keep up with the energy and the times. And so I started educating about peripartum cardiomyopathy. I said, well, I didn't even mention it. I just said, make sure also new mommies get their NT-proBNP test. And just for awareness, because early diagnosis saves lives. This one nurse, midwife nurse, I will not mention her name, says, not sure why that would be relevant, especially in someone healthy. This isn't something normally checked after birth in healthy people. Well, how would you know that you are healthy unless you have the diagnosis? You don't know your number. I mean, there are women that have 0 signs breastfeeding their baby 2 months after and having cardiac arrest, death. Right. So it's like that statement right there. I won't say her last name, Erin, midwife nurse. That statement right there is United States problem within birth world, as well as, any.
Yeah, I agree.
Obstetrician office.
Right.
This is a very common statement. I'm a very healthy girl. My entire life, dancer, yoga master, but I still had my times of death called 3 months after giving birth to my son, because I was left never diagnosed, never treated, and that fluid suffocated my heart until death. So her saying, not sure why the BNP test would be relevant, especially in someone healthy, unbelievable.
Yeah, that's insane.
I said your comment proves that there's a huge educational disconnect in America with pregnancy awareness, which is why I'm the woman to speak up on behalf of all women's pregnancies. This is a perfect example, so I will use it today in today's docuseries. Please kindly excuse any typos. This has nothing to do with healthy. This has to do with a growth placenta factor. and there is a test, and that placenta growth awareness knowledge can also prevent baby loss.
Right.
And there needs to be more awareness that, so I continued on with what we know.
Right.
I even showed her an actual graph, visually that we have for our PowerPoint presentation to back up medically everything that I was saying. Because here's a nurse midwife that literally, delivers babies left and right and doesn't feel that this test that is the only test to determine maternal mortality.
Right. And she's a
With a
trusted medical
healthy
professional.
woman. I mean, have you have any health issues prior?
No, none.
Have you ever had a heart problem?
Never.
Neither have I.
Never.
Dancer, yoga, never had a heart problem, because this is not a heart problem.
Right.
This is a fluid problem that causes the heart to suffer till death.
Right.
And we are left untreated. Now, to remove, once my times of death happened, once they removed the fluid and they cured the infection, I was back to normal. So that's why it's medically proven that no woman should ever die from peripartum cardiomyopathy.
Right.
So you being, saved at a life threat, literally by sheer miracle from mercy, when you kind of woke up with this diagnosis, what was your reaction?
I was scared to death. I remember when the doctor came in with, the results of the tests, and I had been there for a while. My mom, my husband, my brand new baby, my first child that was born in 2018, they were all waiting, to see what was going on, because we were all just, confused. When the doctor came in, the cardiologist came in and told me that I was in active heart failure, and he diagnosed me with peripartum cardiomyopathy, HELP syndrome. These are all things that I had no idea even existed.
Right.
So once he told me, I just instantly cried, because when you hear heart failure, you think, okay, I'm going to die because my heart is failing and you need your heart to live. So that was my first thought. And then he went into the details. He told me that my ejection fraction, he explained to me what that was first. And then he told me that it was only 10 to 15%.
Yes,
And he said, it's not the worst, but that's pretty bad. And if you were, he told me, I was 28 at the time. He told me that if you were
You're 28
older,
years old
yes,
okay.
when I was diagnosed. He told me that if it wasn't for my age, he would.
So you still are 28.
30.
Okay, 30.
I was diagnosed, I had a post PPCM baby.
Okay, got
That's
it.
a whole nother situation. But
Okay.
when I was diagnosed in 2018, I was 28. But I was scared to death, and I didn't know really what anything that he was saying, I didn't know what any of it meant. All I really knew was, they gave me Lasix, and that started to relieve some of the swelling.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like the only light at the end of the tunnel that I could see.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
Lasix seems to be the go-to when fluid is literally consuming our body.
right.
As well as a magnesium drip to lower the
Right.
NT-proBNP.
And I learned about the magnesium with my third baby.
Okay.
Because she was early, and
You
because
didn't learn it with the first one, with the lowering the BNP?
no,
Oh,
I think
wow.
I was just maybe a little jaded, just
Okay.
not really paying attention to, the little details. It was just I was stuck on I have heart failure now.
Right.
And then the cardiologist was kind of banking on me making a quick recovery, just because I had never had a heart problem, and he felt like this is just pregnancy induced and we can turn this around. So
Right.
he did no type of intervention, nothing. He just gave me medication, sent me home, and said this should
Clear up?
Yeah,
This should be fine?
basically. And
Oh, gosh.
here we are in 2022, and my heart's functioning at 20% still.
I'm sorry.
With no interventions, still just, he's altered my medication some, but it's just, it's it's a mess.
Yeah.
So I was scared
You're
then,
still
and I'm still scared.
Exactly,
You know?
because you're still advocating
Yeah.
for yourself.
Yeah. With my third, advocating for myself was the only reason why I made it through. And
Right.
I had my high risk OB told me I had like contacted the Department of Managed Healthcare, and I really fought for them to deliver my baby when they did, because I felt terrible and I already knew what it meant, and I was at 27 weeks, and they were like, no, you know, we're not gonna deliver your baby any earlier than like 34, 35 weeks. We're not gonna put your baby in harm's way. And
Right.
that made me feel horrible, you know, because I'm a mother trying to advocate for myself, and they made me feel like I'm not caring for my child.
Right.
But that wasn't the case. I wanted to live long enough, you know, to see my baby through a NICU journey. You know, I didn't want to die. I didn't want my baby to die. So I had to do what I had to do. And, you know, advocating for yourself is so important.
I
So
feel
important.
like every day in many different situations, you know, self-advocacy is the only way, especially with the times that we live today.
Yeah.
You know, truly. I'm sorry that you're not fully recovered. What are you doing to kind of maybe raise your EF percent?
What I was told by, I've had three cardiologists since my diagnosis, and what I was told was there's not really much I can do besides really take my medication and, you know, stay away from, you know, salty food as much as you can. Not stay away from them completely, but stay away from them as much as you can. So watch your salt intake, you know, watch your weight, make sure you're tracking your weight every day, that kind of thing. But
So I went 10% as well, EF percent. And I also had a defibrillator that I was highly allergic to inside of my chest.
right.
So when I got home, I needed to like do my, you know, as a healthy woman, my entire life, never had the flu till my time of death. I've been a dancer. And so I utilized all my dance classes and all my yoga and everything. And I created a routine. And I also, and it's like it is like a Vinyasa flow, but it's got other things. And I'm actually going to start a Zoom PPCM fitness.
Oh, awesome.
Because I want to apply that for others, because others don't know how to stretch and breathe, that can actually really, you know, lead with the heart, open the heart, feel that breath, that deep satisfying breath that we all miss.
Right.
So I have mastered that, but to get there, can't go back to what I was right from the beginning.
Right.
So what I did was I got water foam weights. Okay?
Right.
Less impact on my back, my legs, my hips. I had kidney failure.
Yeah.
My feet were still swollen. I just couldn't get my breath. I didn't feel comfortable, you know, even though at one point I was like a daredevil surfer that could just like be in the ocean all day, where to the point where I didn't feel safe even swimming in a pool, you know. So I started slow, and I took the foam weights and I would just walk back and forth. And then I'd lift it up and, you know, and I swing my legs. And then I started seeing these old women that are in their 70s doing the water aerobics.
Right.
And I had my son with me too. I had him go and do water baby stuff with me, because it's so important for babies to know how to swim, especially in California.
Right.
So afterwards, my husband would pick up my son Liam and go home, and I'd stay for the water workouts with like the 70-year-olds, because I felt more connected with them, because they would be like, oh, I got a pain right here. And I'm like, oh yeah, I got a pain right there. You know, I'd show them my defibrillator.
Right.
You know, I had this, and I'm like, oh yeah, I had 3 cardiac arrests. So it was like they were my people.
Yeah.
But working out, those women, don't let them fool you. I could not believe how strong I was getting, how in my heart, my blood was pumping through my veins. I was able to have that circulation, and to learn other movements in the water really, really helped my breathing. And he would even know, like, I would complain less, I would feel my veins wouldn't hurt me. So I continued on, And I just, now I can jump in and I can swim, and I have no
Yeah.
longer fear, which I did have a lot of fear
Right.
because I was suffocating
Right.
in my fluid to the
Right.
point where I was having dreams about water all the time while I was pregnant. It was like I was suffocating.
That's terrible.
Yeah, it was awful. So it took me, I had to, like, again, walk to the fear. But now, even like yesterday, I was swimming with my son,
Mhm.
you know, like swimming. I don't use the weights as much anymore,
Yeah.
but I always have them at the
Mhm.
pool just in case. If I
Right.
feel like winded, I could just still just keep moving, because it's
Right.
all about just moving the body.
Absolutely.
So I highly suggest anybody that has a low EF percent
Mhm.
that wants to raise it, don't necessarily baby yourself too much,
Right.
but start light
Mhm.
and make sure that you're always with somebody, or
Right.
someone's always with you. Like, I had
Yeah.
lifeguards around me.
Yeah.
You know, if John wasn't with me, I had lifeguards,
Yeah.
which he felt safe, because I wasn't just swimming by myself with a
Right.
defibrillator that just had cardiac arrest death, and I'm trying to push it, my EF percent to go back up.
Yeah.
So it did.
Mhm.
You know, it did.
Yeah.
It got up, and then it
Yeah.
stayed
Yeah.
for 3 years, and I'm 5 years post out.
Mhm.
So it took a little while, and it takes a full year to really acclimate your body and
Yeah.
like to adjust it. So taking it slow is very healthy.
Right.
So if they say there's nothing you can do,
Mhm.
I say yes, that's wrong advice,
Yeah.
because there's a lot you can do.
Mhm.
Maybe not what they can do,
Right.
you know. They
But
can
I can
give
help
you,
myself.
yeah, they can give you heart meds that say, you know, that will make your heart say thank you.
Mhm.
But when it comes to like what you need to do on your end,
Right.
is just, you know, things that, you know, we need to do for ourselves, like, you know,
Yeah.
take our quercetin, our zinc, our
Yeah.
vitamin D,
Right.
our emergency C,
Mhm.
you know, keeping our body healthy,
Right.
and, you know, eat, which I have to do too, but more vegetables,
Mhm.
because you won't gain a pound eating a vegetable. You can
And
eat
I heard
vegetables
like
all
plant
day.
based is that's kind of the way to go. Although another doctor told me, I think it was my high risk, well, because I was pregnant at the time, but I mentioned just, you know, with me Googling stuff and being a part of so many different mom groups, you know, I heard that like the plant based diet, it helps tremendously, you know, with helping your heart to try and rebuild its strength and
Yeah, add more grapeseed,
right.
ginger root,
Mhm.
you know, things that, you know, I love collagen now. I put it in my
Yeah.
coffee. You know, my hair is like,
Yeah.
is growing so long
Mhm.
just from collagen.
Wow.
Yeah, so there are things that we can do
Mhm.
to raise that EF percent, because when you say that sounds like, I'm sorry, that sounds it's defeat. It's putting a woman mentally for defeat without even giving the encouragement that you can fully
Right.
recover.
Mhm.
You know, it's like the caterpillar that turns into the butterfly. You know,
Mhm.
give yourself time. You know, because it's like, that's what this is going to take. And once you're recovered, you can live a very long life, as
Right.
Dr. James Fett says.
Right. He's
And,
amazing.
yeah, so it's, you know, there are things, and you know, starting April,
Mhm.
I am starting every Monday doing a Zoom fitness,
Right.
a PPCM fitness.
Mhm. That's amazing.
Yeah, and it's going to be every Monday, just to get the energy flow,
Mhm.
and then you can maybe do some of the breathing, and, you know, on your own time,
Right.
you know, and once you get used to the routine.
Mhm.
So you have 3 babies.
I do.
What are the ages?
My son is 4. He was born in 2018. My daughter is 2. She was born in 2019. That's my heart baby. And then Rio, my second daughter, my third child, she was born July of 2021.
Okay.
And that was by far, you know, the most that was the craziest time of my life, being pregnant with her and, really trying to advocate for myself. And, it kind of felt like I was fighting the world just to, carry the pregnancy. Because just like you said, it's important to, give yourself time. And I've heard that from my doctors after my diagnosis. And obviously me getting pregnant, that wasn't planned. I'm not going to say it was an accident, but it wasn't planned for sure. But as soon as I found out that I was pregnant, my family, my doctors, I had nobody on my side. Everybody was like, terminate immediately. Don't even go 4 weeks. Like, terminate. It's done. Don't do it. I felt differently. I felt that, I put myself in that situation, and I felt like I felt strong enough to move forward.
Okay.
The experience that I had with doctors with my like initial appointments broke my heart. Just broke my heart. I had one, I refused to go back to Riverside because I felt like they were completely negligent from the beginning.
That's how I feel about Cedars-Sinai, and it
Yeah.
wasn't because they were negligent. It was because the unwillingness to be informed and educated was beyond unacceptable.
It was.
Especially that girl Leah that just died at Cedars-Sinai,
Yeah.
November 21st, this past November 2021, died at Cedars-Sinai. Same doctors, same hospital, still has not learned yet, and that's why, we come forward. So I know how you feel. You don't want to go back to Riverside.
No.
Why would you? They completely
They completely ignored me
you.
and
brushed your symptoms off.
completely, and told me this is just regular. She literally told me this is just
Right.
regular pregnancy stuff.
Right.
She told me at the very last appointment that I had. I don't remember the date, but it was before I went into labor. I told her that I had been expressing to my mom and everything, and I said I'm going to tell her at my next appointment. And I told her I'm afraid that the way I feel is a long-term problem. I don't feel like this is something that, okay, I'll just deliver the baby and everything's going to go back to normal. I don't feel good. And I cried to her. And she told me, you're just anxious to see your baby. And I was speechless. Like, I just walked out of there like,
No one's
I don't
really
know what to
listening.
say.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say.
Right. And that is also the issue with not just in America but globally, because this is a global woman's disease.
Right.
And that statement that you just said is what women are saying globally.
Yeah.
Literally, they are being brushed off. Their words are not being taken seriously. When they're pregnant, they're having heart failure, and people are telling them they have anxiety. And then when they live through heart failure, maternal mortality, when you feel like you're having heart failure, now you're having anxiety. So you get confused.
Right. And there's no in between. There's no, because you're feeling a bunch of different things, but
Yeah.
ultimately you have like a physical feeling, and you
Physical.
have,
Sometimes I'm like, and I can't breathe.
Yeah, you're having a physical feeling that you can't really describe to other people to make it make sense to them. It's not something that they can see happening, so they don't really, it doesn't register with them.
Right, that you can see. And that's what I said to the court when I was trying to do something with Social Security or something, and I had to go to court. And when I talked to the judge, and I gave him an example of what a cardiologist told me, basically, that I also mentioned in Tracy Dominguez's interview, that heart failure is not something that you can see, and you can't look at a woman and know. Because 1 minute you're fine, next minute you're not. He's like, this is your heart today. Wait, no, this is your heart today. This is your heart tomorrow.
Yep.
And I'm thinking, well, same with you, buddy,
Right.
But when he said that, so he says, so the person with no legs that's in the wheelchair has more of a chance rolling out of the grocery store than you walking out.
Yeah.
And that's why we have handicap plates, because our handicap is in our heart, and you can't see our heart, but you can see a man with no legs, or a woman with no legs, but she can roll out more chance than us walk out, because the handicap is not in our legs, it's in our heart.
You know, believe it or not,
And if
I have never been offered those services. Nobody ever told me that I could have a handicap sticker.
absolutely.
Nobody
It was
ever
the
told me
first
that
thing
like
that
I could
did.
have those things. Even disability,
Are
things
you
like
kidding
that.
me?
I had no
we
idea.
go to Disneyland and we park in handicap. We park handicap everywhere.
Yeah,
like,
I had no
I
idea.
even the other day, I mean, I was talking to this one PPCM survivor, and she's like getting her baby out, and her brother was with her, and and some old lady said, "When did pregnancy become handicap?"
Oh my
Well,
goodness.
when you survive PPCM because you're never diagnosed, left to die, only to be treated when your life is at a threat in an ER, have your times of death called after giving birth, and now your heart is completely weakened and, for the rest of its life. Like, are you kidding me? So yeah, she went off. She was like, yeah, boy, did I go off on her. But I remember I've had a few of those people that said to me, you look fine. And I'm like, oh, yeah?
Yeah.
If I was to take off my shirt, I think you would think otherwise. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't see it because I'm covered.
Right.
Like, how dare you? So, there is a lack of respect to women who have babies. It's hard to give, we're given life.
Right.
We're like walking, vessels of, we're people. We're not robotic,
After I had my post baby in 2021, I had fought tooth and nail, to advocate for myself. I went against my high risk OB, and that was the only OB that I had seen. And I remember talking to Kaiser Member Services, and I told them I don't want to ever see her again, because my cardiologist gave the green light to deliver the baby early because he saw that there was a problem.
Right.
And she was the only one that had to say yes. And she absolutely refused. She told me, I will not do that because you're putting your baby at risk, and when I see you, your blood pressure's fine, you don't have swelling, you're fine. As far as I can see.
But they never gave you the NT-proBNP test, which is the only early diagnosis.
I had to ask for it.
Did they refuse it?
They did not refuse it, but they did see that I was not actively in heart failure, so my numbers were decent.
Okay.
So it was kind of just like, they pushed the anxiety thing. You have anxiety. But that wasn't it, because they also I requested a Holter monitor, and they could see that I was having PVCs like crazy. And there was no reason for it as far as they could see, but it's happening.
Right.
So just do something, because it's uncomfortable for me, and I'm afraid, and the fact that I'm stressed about it is not going to help my heart situation, and it's not going to help my baby, and I'm not going to allow myself to die behind, we're just going to sit here and let it happen because everything looks okay. But when I told Kaiser that I didn't want to see her anymore, ironically, I was scheduled for my postpartum visit with her. And when I walked in the room, she just was stunned. And she said, I don't have a reason. I don't know why this is this way, but she said Black women they're 3 times more likely to pass away
Absolutely.
during pregnancy or after, and she said you had the perfect storm brewing. And
Yeah.
I was stunned that she could even say that to me.
No, actually, this is from Dr. James Fett too, or hold on one second, maybe you can read it because my eyes are just, but I believe in, in having this voice.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Why don't you read this whole, the stats?
Okay. Cardiovascular diseases kill nearly 50,000 African American women annually. Of African American women ages 20 and older, 49% have heart diseases. That's terrible.
Awful.
Only
All
one,
preventable.
yeah. Only 1 in 5 African American women believes she is personally at risk. I had no idea that I was at risk. Only 52% of African American women are aware of the signs and symptoms of a heart attack. And only 36% of African American women know that heart disease is their greatest health risk. I had no idea.
And then if you continue on, neither did I. Well, we don't. But this is what should be out there in the curriculum of ACOG, as well as American Heart Association, as well as every other association that advocates for women, especially, you know, knowing now that we have the medical proof and backup, it should be applied. And they make it very difficult with these codes, but why don't you say them anyway?
It's very possible to lessen symptoms. Some cardiologists recommend that PPCM and preeclampsia moms take BB throughout subsequent pregnancy. These are the currently known susceptibility to PPCM genes, known whether in father or mother: SFLT-1 gene, RS258415 at chromosome, 12p11.SS, and TTN gene, Titin mutation, TTN truncating variant, GNB3 TT genotype, especially with African heritage. We are still in the knowledge scale of things, so there will be more identified as time goes along.
Right. And I memorize that because whenever I see somebody on the street or something like that, I'm like, either take a picture or just write down this, because you know, they make it hard, and there is a heritage correlation. And you know, for me, I'm Jewish. You know, I have my when I was pregnant, I had all the tests that I needed for my heritage, and so, you know, this is a woman disease, but when it comes to a mutation genetic gene, and it's known and it's out there, and there's prevention with a simple awareness test, and we were given all these other blood tests, so why not add specifically within, you know, this heritage? And I just don't understand why it has not been applied.
Right.
And if it's there, it's not hidden information. It's also not educated. It's also not provided in the curriculum or in any, I mean, that's the living proof that I have is that when I've been contacting doulas, birth keepers, midwives, and I ask them where they get their education training from, and they say the ACOG, and they've never heard of this information, especially NT-proBNP test. I want to know why.
Yeah.
You know, we don't have that answer. Maybe someday we will.
Yeah, I really hope for future women going through pregnancies, and especially the ones that are unaware of, you know, just the importance of advocating for themselves.
And as we sit here today, in our lifetime, in this era, you and I, as well as the women that are showing up and coming through and talking about the painful truth, we are developing this pregnancy movement.
Right.
We are changing women's pregnancy, health, and wellness history.
Absolutely.
We are demanding change, and for the old handbook to be thrown away, and to not keep giving birth like the ancient times when we have medical proof. It'd be one thing if we didn't have a prevention. We wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
Right.
But the fact that when women wake up from this, we're looked at from the medical community, we're aliens from another planet, and then we're sitting here educating the wheelhouse, and we're looking at them like they're aliens from another planet. It's like, you know, we know something you don't, but this is your expertise. This is your field.
When I was diagnosed, my cardiologist, after he told me, everything that was going on, he said, I'm going to be honest with you. This is the first case I've ever worked with personally. So this is going to be a learning experience for the both of us. And when he told me that, it just sent me in another whirlwind of like, oh my God, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
You don't know what you're doing. I don't know what I'm doing or what, I'm supposed to be doing. And like, what is going on? So everything I'm Googling, you're Googling. I don't understand, and it's sad.
Yeah, no, it's
Sad.
really sad. It's really sad when the best of the best that I went to with zero, financial insurance, like I had the best insurance, to say that PPCM was my fault and that I just got the bad luck of the draw.
Yeah.
When I didn't have the articulation or I wasn't evolved yet to say I got the bad luck of the draw of having an entire medical hospital and multiple doctors at Cedars-Sinai that had absolutely zero awareness of the preventions for maternal mortality, when a healthy woman my whole life had cardiac death. But to say after, when I was diagnosed in Arizona, thank God, they saved my life.
Yeah.
And they said, you're a miracle. You're lucky to be alive. I had a cardiac death. My death was over 30 minutes each cardiac death,
Wow.
hypothermia coma. And I was not listened to until I woke up from cardiac death and a hyperthermia coma, and days just to thaw me out to say, you're the 1% survivor in California from peripartum cardiomyopathy. Now, when I went back to Cedars-Sinai, and the high-risk management team basically treated me like I was dirt that stuck to the bottom of their shoe, as well as the doctors, they didn't care.
No.
Because, or that girl would still be alive today, Leah,
Right.
her father, Robert, is an actor in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
He's wondering, what happened to my beautiful, healthy daughter that's now dead
Right.
with the best insurance, only because of lack of awareness of the NT-proBNP test.
It's terrible.
It's sad, which is why I have so much unresolved anger and frustration.
I do too.
Because beautiful women are still dying when it's preventable.
I always think back to that one appointment where, it was just kind of like my last ditch effort just to beg her to deliver my baby. And I was full term when I was diagnosed. Or before my diagnosis, I was 37 weeks, give or take. And when I went in there, I was just like, listen, she's full term,
She's baked.
She's
She's
done.
ready. She's done.
And she's big, so
Yeah.
even delivered, full term, she's fine. But if you have any issues or worries about her being born at 37 weeks versus, 40,
Did you have a
39 or
C-section?
40. I did.
Okay. So
I had to have an emergency C-section.
That's what I had.
Because I went into labor. I labored at home for 24 hours and I was having contractions, but Kaiser has this thing, and I'm sure other, hospitals have it where, if your contractions aren't a certain amount of, minutes apart, then don't even come in because we're going to send you home. My water didn't break. I hadn't dilated at all, but I was having hard labor contractions. And once I finally went in, because they were, 2 and 3 minutes apart, they were like, well, if you're not dilated, we're sending you home. And I'm just like, how could you send me home like this? I can't even walk or talk through my contractions. There's no way I'm going home. And they finally realized, okay, we're just going to deliver because you're swollen, your blood pressure's high, we don't want any issues. You're full term. Let's just go through, with the delivery. And even my husband was taking video in the delivery room. I know he's not supposed to, but he was. You did it too.
Yeah, he's over there saying he did too. And also, I have my baby's birth. When they held him up, they said, "Happy birthday." So yeah, we have.
They gave me
I have a
the
question with you.
they wouldn't do the epidural, but they
Okay.
gave me a spinal. They told me we're gonna go ahead with the delivery, and it's gonna be an emergency delivery, but we can't give you an epidural. We'll give you like the spinal once you get into the operating room. So when I When I got in there, they did all the.
Why couldn't they give it to you? Because they couldn't find it? Is that an
No,
issue?
they said.
'Cause that happened to me.
No, they I don't really know why they didn't. They just told me that, we're going to deliver her in the next, 2-3 hours. So
Okay.
we're not going to, the answer is no. So I had to kind of just like fight through it. And after the fact, after my diagnosis, after I like dove really deep into researching, I found out that contractions, women that are in active heart failure, that makes it worse. Mm-hmm. That will wreck you like very quickly. That brings your heart function down very, very quickly.
I wonder if that's what happened to me. They had like 4 people try to put that needle in my back. They wouldn't let John in until I was ready.
Yeah.
And they had multiple people try. And I'm like, ow, what the heck is going on back there?
Right.
I didn't know what was going on. Here's a question. We both had C-sections. We were both full of 50 pounds of fluid. Do you remember, or do you have photos when your baby was first pulled out? Was there any blood, or was it just like mine looked like a spa because I think I had so much fluid. It was like you didn't have a speck of blood. No,
she was completely clean. But they did tell me that I lost a lot of blood, and I was confused as to, well,
because you had more fluid than blood.
Right. I didn't understand that.
Okay. So this is a correlation that I'm actually putting together myself. I always say every woman that talks, we put the PPCM puzzle together a little bit.
Right.
That's something for the medical community or birth keepers, midwives, doulas to look at. If the fluid is discolored,
right.
If it's green, it's infected, which is PPCM. If it's if there's a lot of fluid, and now this is a theory.
Yeah.
And not where I am just trying to figure out that there's a correlation, and I'm having more pregnancy, labor, and delivery nurses look at the fluid if there's a C-section, because there is a difference that I ask, was your baby bloody? And they say, the ones that are healthy, and they say, oh yeah, he was a bloody mess, or she was a bloody mess. And the ones that are PPCM say that their baby don't have a lot of blood. No,
there was hardly any.
That's a sign. That could be an alert tip. Like, they need to look at the fluid while the baby's coming out.
Right.
Under a microscope.
And my with my third pregnancy, she was also a C-section. Early, but regardless, she was born the same way.
What about the one that wasn't PPCM? What about your first one?
Yeah, he was a mess.
He was bloody?
Yeah.
See? Did we just figure something out?
I think we did. I think we did. Yeah, so
they need to now apply. They need to know, once they're given that information, they need to now really look at, that's a study.
Yeah, they do.
The fluid that comes out, specifically C-section. I mean, I don't know another way, because like you're like literally pulling them out.
Yeah.
Where you're not pushing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's different.
But you still lose like a ton of blood.
A ton of blood, right.
So,
buckets of blood.
Yeah.
I mean, they take all our organs out, put it on the table, and then put us back together.
Right.
Literally.
Yeah. So I didn't understand
There's a way
either.
to look at that fluid.
Yeah.
It's not all, like, what my doctor even said was, wow, your ovaries are, I will never forget it. I was completely drugged up and I couldn't feel anything, but she said I had beautiful ovaries. Now, the fact that she could see that, that's amazing.
It is.
So, there's something to be said where when you see babies being born every single day, ones that are bloody, ones that are fluidy, you can see clearly the, how, the organs, there's something to that. You know, there's with medicine, there's practice.
Mhm.
And I just was wondering if anybody who ever delivered babies ever pick up on that.
Right. And it doesn't look like it.
Not yet.
Yeah, not yet. It doesn't look like they're. It's a lot of things that I experienced with my last 2 pregnancies that it made me really, really question like my trust in healthcare, especially after my diagnosis. I felt like I couldn't trust anybody. And then with my 3rd, you know, at 27 weeks, that's when like I started fighting. And luckily that same week, you know, there was action because of who I went through. The Department of Managed Healthcare, they went after them completely and made them see that this is ridiculous. You guys are about to make a big mistake. So don't do that. So they contacted my high risk OB, and she referred me to Kaiser Sunset, where they have specialists. They have doctors that specialize in cardiac pregnancies, is what they call them there. I was seen by the director of the cardiology department, as well as I was also seen by the director of obstetrics. And they were amazing. They were very detail oriented. They did all of the things that they should do. And the services that they gave me, I couldn't help but to wonder why these aren't regular services that every woman is receiving. They treated me like a princess there. And maybe it was because I had put the spotlight on my pregnancy and on my situation. But
What hospital is this?
this was Kaiser Sunset.
Kaiser Sunset. Okay.
I mean, I was floored.
In what city?
LA.
Oh, on Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah. I'm telling you.
Oh, you know what? That's near Silver Lake. I always passed that. I always wondered about that.
Yeah, they're
Okay.
amazing.
Really?
I would refer anybody, even like if you have like a regular pregnancy, go there, because it felt like they cared.
Gosh, why did I go there? I mean, because Cedars-Sinai, you think like, you know.
And you would think that, you know, especially women that aren't having like, you know, women that start having cardiac problems in pregnancy, no matter where you're at, especially like if you're in the area, I don't see why they wouldn't send you there. But what I was told was they don't accept everybody. So your situation has to be really bad in order for them to accept you from a different hospital. And when my high risk OB called me and to tell me that I was going there, she said, "I'm so glad that they accepted you. Like, they accepted you. That's such a big deal." And I was livid because I'm like, you're just going to pass me off to a different doctor. I don't know them. They don't know me. They don't know my heart situation. Like, how could you send me there? How could you send me to somebody else when I've been seeing you this whole time? This situation is scary enough. You know, now I have to go in a different environment. I don't live in LA. I live an hour or 2 away from LA. This isn't going to work. But she said, just trust me. This is the best decision. And it turned out I ended up staying there for 2 weeks. I was in the coronary ICU. People were dying around me. Like, I woke up to like buzzers and things. Like, I could still hear them. It was the scariest time of my life. Scariest time of my life. But those doctors there made it to where I was able to live. And my child was able to live. And they didn't shame me for pushing, you know, for my child to be born so that I could live, or at least, you know, be comfortable with my living situation at the time. Because I was always told throughout my last pregnancy that I wasn't going to make it. I was told that I had a 20% chance to survive it. And that was it. You know, that's the information that I was given. And I just kind of took that, and I just had high hopes.
Yeah.
You know, I had faith in God.
That's what we hold on to is our
that's
spirituality. Yeah. When I had that defibrillator, when they said I had, I think it was like 15% chance or 80% chance of, what was it? 80% chance of survival, other way around. 80% chance of not making it.
Yep.
Is what they said.
That's what I was given to. That's what I was told.
My husband's behind the camera, by the way, so I'm. he knows more than I do. I was a goner at that point, but that's a scary position to be in. I know that fear.
Terrible.
I had to have fight songs. So my fight song was I was Poppy from Trolls, Get Back Up Again.
Yeah.
And in the end, she blows up eating those blueberries and she's like tumbling down. You're like,
right.
That was me.
Right.
I just kept blowing up, and I didn't know what the heck was going on because I've never been, I've always been like maybe 105, 110 my entire life.
Yeah.
To over 200 pounds.
Yeah.
And I knew I was dying. I mean, we know when we're dying.
Yeah, we do. We do.
I mean, we physically know our body is failing us. And to be brushed off as if it's just anxiety or it's normal, it's just one of these painful truths that we have to go through.
It is.
As women in America.
It is.
And we're paying. We're, like, I had the best insurance money could buy. I could have gone to Kaiser and Sunset.
Yeah.
Easy. I could have gone anywhere. You know?
And I didn't. I had Medi-Cal.
I was in Los Angeles.
At the time. And,
I thought I was going to the best. Yeah. Cedars-Sinai. Beverly Hills.
I had looked up, where is the best place that I could go for my third pregnancy? Because, like I said, they gave me 20% chance. So I wanted to see the best.
Right.
And I was willing, I talked to my family and I said, look, I have Medi-Cal, so I'm probably not going to be qualified for the best, but if we have to, we're going to have to come together and work it out. I know, and that it's hard to tell a group of people that don't believe in what you're saying.
Right.
They have no faith whatsoever.
None.
So, but I had to sit down with them and say, if we have to pay for me to go to Cedars-Sinai, because that was one of the places that I had looked up and I said, I'm going to have to go there.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You would have surely have died.
Man.
Thank God I went to Arizona, like I said,
Yeah.
because they gave me a shot, induced my cardiac arrest, and 7 days later, I was one breath away. Well, no, I didn't have breath because my heart stopped over 30 minutes each cardiac death. So I was a tag on my toe, basically, at that point.
When my third was delivered, that whole situation, I'm telling you, it's crazy the way all of that unfolded. But at the time of her delivery, I met with so many doctors, so many doctors that I had never even known existed. They talked to me about, first of all, I wasn't delivered in labor and delivery. I was delivered in the main OR. There was 30 doctors in that room. There was an ECMO machine. There was so much blood available. It was like they were planning for, the absolute worst. And
That's amazing.
the ECMO machine, they had talked to me about it a week prior, and they told me what it was. They told me what it does. And they told me, if we have to put you on the ECMO machine, your chance of surviving that is very, very low. And I'm just laying there what else? You cannot tell me anything else. I just figured, well, I'm probably going to die, but at least I'm going to die advocating for myself. At least my daughter will be born, in an environment where there are people that know what I just stood up for. They will know what I fought so hard for. And even to this day, though, I survived that. She kicked butt, for her to be born at 29 weeks. She stayed in the NICU 36 days and she was out and she's been a rock star ever since. But, even to this day.
She's a PPCM rock star.
Exactly. She's amazing.
She's a PPCM baby rock star.
Yes, she's
At
amazing.
6 months, yeah.
But I still feel like, a part of you dies. You have to die, mentally, because you have to kill your thoughts of, oh my God, am I going to make it? Am I going to, not make it, I have 2 other babies. I have babies at home.
Oh, there was for a while there where I was terrified, and I would just look over at John and say, am I gonna die?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like literally,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like such a easy thing to say, but it's such a hard thing to feel.
It is.
When you're saying that, and because we are terrified.
Mm-hmm. The 2 weeks that I was there before she was born, I had to spend those times alone because of COVID.
Oh yeah, so let me bring that up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, COVID and PPCM
Mm-hmm.
have same symptoms.
Yeah, they do.
So that really plays a huge impact. I mean, we were defeated before, but now we have another hurdle on top of us.
Right.
With this new, COVID-19.
Right.
So how did that affect you? What was the difference between your previous pregnancies compared to a COVID baby pregnancy?
Mainly it was the advocacy part.
Okay.
Because I felt that, at least with my second, when I was feeling a certain kind of way, I at least could have my husband come in with me, and he was kind of like piggybacking on everything that I said just to kind of like push my point across.
Right.
But at this point, with the third, with, a COVID baby, there was nobody. Nobody could go with me. It was just me and a doctor in a room, and they could tell me anything, and what can I do?
Right, and here you're losing oxygen because you're having suffocation and
Right.
you're not doing well. And when we are sick, we do need somebody to kind of think for us.
Right.
When you're sick, you're not well.
Right.
So you might say something that's not, or do so, or, because that's really scary.
It is. And then just simply trying to like live, when you could go outside and, I always said like, I can't do anything. Nobody can come over because if I get COVID, I'm done.
Right.
So
that's how we quarantine every day.
Yeah.
Like I am never, other than in person and a grocery store, like, I usually stock up a lot when I go out, so that way I don't have to go out enough, things like that. And I always have hand wipes, and I'm not touching anything, sanitizing, and we have our PPCM awareness masks. So, it's definitely,
and it's still terrifying, even though things are like, it's dying down, and I guess they're calling it an endemic now, and that's all great. But I don't think that I'll ever be comfortable, going back to the way things were, especially when I haven't fully recovered yet. I don't think that I'll ever feel comfortable at this point.
And I feel the same way as well. I mean, I'm not comfortable. I've been, working as a location manager for over 18 years on top TV shows and movies, and I don't feel, I have taken projects where I've literally led tech scouts, but I won't stay on set.
Right.
And I won't do that anymore because I'm terrified of getting sick.
Yeah.
So, which is great because we have a locations company, here are locations at home, and then now that we have our this nonprofit, so we've kind of, changed our whole life, as you know.
Right.
Like you have to.
You have
with
to.
this disease.
You have to.
I
think my mom and I were talking about, the mask mandates and how they're easing up, and that's, that's wonderful for some people. But I just don't think that I could ever go back to like not, throwing a mask on if I feel like there's too many people in a room, or, I can't bring myself to do that, just because it was so eye-opening to me how easily, germs and things like that are transferred. And of course, like, common sense. We know, you sneeze into the air and it sprays. We know that. But, for germs to be so dangerous.
Well, it's funny you say that. I would think in my head, I'm walking right now, but 2 minutes ago, was there somebody that just sneezed and now I'm walking through it?
I still think that way.
You know, I mean, that literally that goes through my mind all the time.
Yeah.
It does. When I'm out, you know, I feel like, okay, I'm not gonna worry myself because I don't want to give myself more stress than I already have.
Right. Right.
So I distract myself. I always have things in my ears or something playing, or you know, just a lot of distractions. Not maybe even just noise.
Yeah. I know that you know, ever since the third, like after the second, though I didn't like fully recover, like I was fine. You know, I was able to like live like a normal life or whatever. But after this third, it's so hard for me like emotionally and physically to like to get up because I just, you know, my heart's taken a complete beating after this third pregnancy. And
So you feel more tired?
I'm tired all the time. I cannot, and especially with the 3 kids, with, you know, the 2 toddlers and the newborn, it's just like never ending. So I haven't been able to work. I haven't been able to do anything. You know, I have to just stay home. I can't do literally, like, I try really hard. And I've never been like the type to not like to work. I love to work. I love to contribute, you know, and I can't do any of those things. And I know that it just, I guess with COVID, it's been more, like, it's been easier to digest. The fact that I can't get up and go out, and I can't get up and, like, you know, go work and be around a bunch of people. I can't do that. But because of COVID, you know, it's been better, I guess. It's been better because I need to stay home.
And that's how I feel. I mean, my body was telling me, take it easy. And COVID definitely slowed me down. I'm a workaholic as well.
I am too.
It has slowed me down. I do think that there are, you know, you have to be creative. You know, my husband's a musician. Yeah. So, you know, with that, it's you know, he's doing the music for PPCM, like in the end, you know, he creates the music and things of such. But it's like we have to become creative,
right?
With use what we got to create money and to create, you know, a home base foundation instead of working out. Yeah. Working for somebody else, now it's more. I think what's come into play since COVID is there are more entrepreneurs.
There definitely are. Definitely. I've seen that.
So it has created independence within, like, just in the way that I think as our economy is changing with that, you know. And I think, you know, as we know, the one thing in life that's consistent is change. Nothing ever stays the same. Right. So when it's bad, it will get good. When it's good, it'll be horrible. And when it's horrible, it'll be excellent. And, you know, that's the way life is. You know, when people used to go to the theater, you always say, like, if the movie was just like this, they would walk out and be like, oh, it was boring. Yeah, boring. But if you bring in, like, all the elements of what people go through, which is, like, you know, love, breakup, you know, rekindling it back, and, you know, action and all of that, and then, you know, and it ties it all together, you walk out feeling like, okay, this was a good movie, because we can relate with so many different, you know, heightened highs and lows, because that's what we have in life. We have our highs and we have our lows. Yep. So when we are at our low, we say this too shall pass. Absolutely. Right? So as I sit with you today, you know, us talking about, you know, the struggles that you have gone through, as
Mhm.
well as that I can relate with your struggles, because
Right.
I physically, mentally have been there as well.
Right.
And, you know, you're not alone.
Right.
And I think that's what I learned, because I felt so alone. Like, how is it that all my friends that I've known have had such healthy pregnancies when I'm like the healthiest person? Like, I try
Yeah.
to live a very, you know, dancing, you know, dedicated, active career. And how could this happen?
Right.
To find out that the healthiest of the healthy can get placenta growth pregnancy induced complication.
Yeah.
You know, you're healthy until you're not.
Mm-hmm.
So with us coming, you know, talking about these facts and about how we are recovering,
Right.
we're doing this not for us, we're doing this for our children's children, to change history.
I agree, and definitely to, you know, bring awareness. Awareness is so important, because without awareness, without going through my second pregnancy, without being diagnosed, I would still have no idea, you know, what this is, or, you know, that it even happened.
Right.
You know, I never really understood how women were dying during childbirth. I didn't understand that at all.
I know, and you know, it's interesting. I never understood it either. And then I was watching, like, I got into all those Netflix shows that the royalty, like the Medici family, the White Princess, the Spanish Princess, you know, with King Henry the Seventh. You know, he had his brother. He lost his wife through childbirth. Almost every episode, a woman is dying after childbirth or having baby loss.
Yeah.
And it's amazing that after all this time, from the 1800s, even the Medici family, we still have not come with women's rights for, you know, we're not, I guess, worthy to evolve with this. It's time. Enough women have suffered and enough women have died.
They have.
So, yeah.
When when I found out that I was pregnant, with the third, I have friends that are doulas, and I went straight to them and I said, look, I don't want to go through the hospitals again. I want this to be different.
Right.
And the things that they told me that, like, I could potentially do to help myself, like, they're all holistic. So, you know, she was like, oh, great, we can do this. I'm going to take you off your medication. You're going to have, a natural birth this time after, 2 C-sections.
Oh my gosh.
It was insane, but definitely.
See, that's the issues. They're not learning.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not, the information is not being, it's not retaining the information. And wow. Right. I mean, we all want a joyful, healthy pregnancy, but if our bodies and the growth of our placenta is causing this complication, you can't ignore it just because you want it to be joyful. There has to be early diagnosis in order to prevent a catastrophe. And that's where I feel like the lack of ignorance to a lot of people who in this field of birth surrounding pregnancy, it's one thing if you have not been educated and trained, but it's another when you have been informed and not applying it, like Cedars-Sinai. I fully informed them with life-saving information, and it fell on deaf ears. It also not only fell on deaf ears, it shamed me, which shames, I know how many women after me, because this was 5 years ago. Right. August 18th, 2016 was when I gave birth. So how many women were shamed, not listened to, brushed off, and suffered, and how many have died that we've heard of? I mean, we know, Kira Johnson, Judge Hatchett's daughter-in-law,
Mm-hmm.
she died at Cedars-Sinai. Leah just died at Cedars-Sinai.
Yeah.
And I was in between the both of them.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, they didn't learn after the
they're
first.
they're not retaining the information of the prevention of the preventable maternal mortality, suffering, and deaths.
Right.
And it can be determined as early as 10 weeks pregnant with the NT-proBNP test. So
Right. Every woman that, like my friends that, you know, they're pregnant, even now, one just gave birth yesterday. And, you know, I congratulated her and I was really positive and, you know, excited for her, excited with her. But I definitely, like, I ended the conversation with, but hey, by the way,
know your number.
if you could, you know, just ask for a BNP test. It's just
Ask
a
for the
blood
number.
test. They take your blood every morning, you know, until you leave anyway.
Was she willing?
She said she would.
Okay.
She said she would.
All
So
right.
I'm not sure if she did or not, but I just, you know, I did my part.
Yeah, you did your part.
Yeah, I did my
You know,
part.
it's one thing. To educate somebody is what we need to do.
Mm-hmm.
You can lead a horse to water, you can't make them drink it.
Right.
But that's their choice once they have the knowledge, whether or not they want to, you know, they care enough about themselves and
Right.
their baby,
Right.
or they think that they're, you know, invincible and
Mm-hmm.
like not just, you know, little speck in a universe. They believe they are the universe.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what type
Right.
of woman are they going to be?
Right.
A realist, or this is not that can't happen to me.
Mm-hmm. Because I've had conversations with friends that,
Oh
you
yeah.
know,
Oh yeah.
and they don't want to hear it. They're like,
No.
I mean, no, but I'm fine though. I don't need that. You know, that's your story, not.
Yeah, but when did informative educational information become fearful? And it's not to scare, it's to be aware. And why wouldn't anybody want to know their number? Like, they don't even know what they're functioning on.
Right.
Like, and why wouldn't they
Right.
want to know what their baby's functioning on? I
Right.
mean, the BNP test can determine cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So there doesn't need to be child cancer. Hello? Early diagnosis can save for many diseases. And if the only test is the NT-proBNP test, then and they're not, and they're like, oh, that's not going to happen to me. I don't know what kind of life they're thinking. I
Right.
mean, what kind of, you know, what kind of cloud are they floating on, you know? Because definitely not the reality one.
Right.
You know, you're not going to get out of this life without a fluid disease that's going to cause dementia, cancer, heart failure. You don't die from the cancer. You don't die from the dementia. You die from the heart failure. So why wouldn't you want to know your number?
Right.
It's
It's important. It's very, very important.
They have it for cats.
Mm-hmm.
I
I
say
saw
this
that.
You
I
saw my
saw
post?
that, and
Snap.
that is ridiculous.
Feline Pro BNP to help save a feline cat from possible risk of cardiac. That there's a prevention for a cat
In
that looks
all-
like a pregnancy test, which is insulting because we're pregnant that need that. That looks like a pregnancy test. That's
Right.
oh my god. It's like shame, shame, shame.
When I saw that, I was flabbergasted. Like, you know, it takes one blood test. You take so much blood throughout the whole pregnancy. You do so many different tests, and it's just one test. Just
Right.
one.
And
Just
any heart health related association has admitted that they have been aware of this for over 20 years. But then why hasn't even simple educational awareness has been applied if they've known this? I mean, you can't admit something that you've known something for over 20 years and literally chose not to do anything where lives are dying.
Right. Right. And I know
No.
that in, you know,
Not
it's
okay.
it's
Not
women
acceptable.
all across the board. But when you talk about African American maternal health and maternal mortality, they say that it's like a silent genocide almost.
It's the silent killer.
Because it's it's the easiest thing you can do. It doesn't even take much effort for a medical professional to just try. To
Right.
just give them the test. Make that a thing that is regular. Make
Right.
that a thing that's
But the
normal.
issue is now that I'm hearing from women that are pregnant, they're requesting from their obstetrician the NT-proBNP test, and they're being denied the test.
Yeah.
They're being denied, and I actually have proof of that from multiple women in the last month that said, I've tried. The Memorial Hospital in Bakersfield, California, denied me getting the BNP test and sent me home. When I have a high BP, I'm swollen and I can't breathe, and I'm having fainting spells, and I have a baby inside of me at 41 weeks pregnant, and they won't take him out.
Yeah.
Like literally, like unacceptable. Labor and delivery at at Memorial Hospital, at Kern Hospital. I'm talking to the head, and I'm educating them on PPCM. They're saying, well, I've been labor and delivery for over 30 something years, and I've never heard of this before.
But I'm sure that they've seen several deaths during childbirth or like shortly after.
They just didn't know what it was called.
They just don't know what.
And they don't know how to treat.
That's sad.
Yeah, and
That's
the
so
information
sad.
is not hidden. And why isn't it on the ACOG in the college? Why isn't it applied? I have all of the proof of all these doulas and midwives, and they're all saying they get their training and education from them, and they have zero. I'm like, not even a little sentence, not like on like page like 128, like
That's
down
so
at the
sad.
bottom.
That's so
She
sad.
says no, not even a little line. I said there needs to be an actual specific, because PPCM, peripartum cardiomyopathy, is its own disease. There's
Right.
nothing like it. It's a young, healthy woman disease. Any healthy woman can get it. And there should be a checkbox that says, once you've learned about the pregnancy-induced heart failure, what are the preventions? What do you need to do?
Right.
Check this off. And if you get a question or answer wrong, or you get it, you answer it wrong, it brings you back for you to read it again. And then at the end, it should ask you the questions. This way, you push the check and the submit that you have gotten to that education part, and there needs to be a quiz on that.
Right.
Because, again, the lack of education and awareness is what needs to change, and that doesn't cost money. That part, the studies cost money,
Right.
and in the medical community, and the NT-BNP test is only $15 out of pocket. But when you have 500-700 women, that can add up.
Right.
So there has to be something. There's got to be some sort of a way to cut all the hard corners and make it an easy, drag strip.
Right.
Sorry, I like car racing, so
It's okay.
let's just go.
That's okay.
Put
I agree.
our foot on the gas and go 90.
Right.
And catch up with the times real fast.
Yep.
But thank you so much. I vent in every interview,
Right.
because I'm so passionate, and I care about you. I care about your family.
Absolutely.
I
Thank
care
you.
about your little boo-boos that are, under the age of 5.
Yes.
They need you.
Yes.
They need you healthy, and you have all my support.
Thank you so much.
And you ever want to do something, and you're at home and you're like, working, you can always work with nonprofits, to,
Right.
basically at home.
Right.
You don't have to create your own, way of keeping busy. Once your babies
Right.
get older a little bit, you
Right.
get more settled. You need to work on you and your health. I'll send you the link for my PPCM fitness.
Awesome.
And I think that you'll notice, check in with yourself on how you feel before you start, and then check in with yourself when we finish the fitness, and notice how you feel like, wow, like, can you breathe? You breathe better. Is
Right.
just your energy,
Right.
getting you a little bit more oxygen so you can, get that tiredness where you're like, wow, I actually feel like I can do the dishes and
Right.
do the laundry and get
Right.
this done. And I'm like,
Right.
wow, okay, this really got me going.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that when you care for yourself in a way that your body really needs, and you have to push through that,
Mm-hmm.
which is a lot of self-discipline. And for
Yeah.
me, I'm lacking where it needs to be consistent.
I am
so
too.
For me, I need to do a class.
Yeah.
I have to give myself an hour.
Yeah.
Like that beautiful post that she posted, that midwife nurse, that it is important for us to give us that hour.
It is.
Just to check in with ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
To give ourselves that extra, hour energy that we need to have another 8 hours to keep going.
Right. Right.
So, no, I think that there's some truth to being true to ourselves, that there's some things that the medical community cannot do for ourselves that we can do for ourselves.
Absolutely.
And I do believe, because I got my heart rate up and I did have cardiac death.
Yeah.
And I was dead.
Right.
My heart stopped over
Right.
30 minutes each cardiac death. So I already had my time to death called.
Right.
And I was able to get my EF percent
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't listen to the doctors telling me whatever they were feeding me.
Right.
I knew what I needed to do for me.
Right.
And it worked.
Right.
So I think that you could prove them wrong, and then when it goes
I
up
agree.
30%, maybe 28%, 30%, 38%, 40%,
Right.
50%, you go
Right.
back to them and you say, don't ever tell a woman that she's not going to recover
Right.
or she can't get her EF percent, because that, our brains can actually, our mental health can heal our heart.
Right. I agree.
I mean, we keep telling ourselves we're not good and when we suck, then that's how we're going to feel.
I agree.
But if we tell ourselves that we're amazing and that we're healthy,
Mm-hmm.
then that's how we'll feel.
I agree.
So shame on them.
Yeah.
Don't listen to them.
Right.
I mean, take the information that they,
Of course.
the things that they,
Of
we don't know
course.
that they would know, but
Of
we know
course.
what we know.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
So, no, I think that that's a good start
It is.
in moving forward. I mean, you just gave birth 6 months ago and you're fabulous. So
Yeah.
I
I feel great.
wouldn't be too hard on yourself, but no, I appreciate today. And is there anything else
Did
that
you?
you would like to that you forgot, or anything that you maybe want to include?
No,
On this
I thank you
conversation?
so much, for giving me an opportunity to,
Mm-hmm.
speak my painful truth and, to share it.
Absolutely.
There's not many people that want to sit down and have this conversation. So anytime that I get the opportunity, it means a lot, because sometimes situations like this are swept under the rug and, you're left with just that trauma, and there's no way for you to really express it and get it out because nobody wants to hear it. So in this case, this is amazing.
Yeah, no,
This is
I'm glad.
amazing.
I hope you feel some sort of like a little justice, because
Mhm.
that's what this is about. We don't want revenge. We want redemption.
Right. Absolutely.
We want redemption
Hmm.
with this, and we deserve it.
Yeah, we do.
We are women.
Yep.
In 2022.
Right.
So
Right.
we have social media.
Mhm.
We're not in the 1800s or in the Medici family where we're just gonna like roll over and take it.
Right.
We don't
Exactly.
have to.
Exactly.
There's preventions,
I agree.
medical proof. Hello.
Right.
Well, thank you again, and thank you all for watching this series with Ericka and her painful truth. And we'll keep every week do our best to educate in proving that this disease is real and it is not rare. It is just rare for diagnosis
Right.
and rare for people to have the willingness to be informed and for it to be applied once educated. So thank you so much. We appreciate all of you, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
I wish everybody safe, healthy, and have a happy Monday. Thank you.
Thank you.